welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Janice Carney, and Janice is an attorney and partner with the firm Carney, Shugai, is that right?
Correct.
And Sudweeks, LLP in Los Gatos, California, and that firm focuses on elder law. She received her JD degree from the University of Santa Clara Law School in 1990. Janice has been practicing law independently for 21 years, 12 as a sole practitioner, 7 as a senior partner in a boutique elder law firm. She's a certified specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization since 1995. And in 2005, Janice became the first certified elder law attorney in Santa Clara County through the National Association of Elder Law Attorneys. In 2009, Janice became an accredited attorney with the Veterans Administration. So today, Janice and I are going to be talking about life care planning. And before we get started, this is a certain area of law practice that we're talking about, and so this is not the end of the conversation, what's going on between Janice and me here. This is what we hope will be part of a continuing conversation that you'll get with qualified legal counsel. So, and also, probably it's not going to be so much of an issue of what we're talking about here, but Janice is a California attorney. I'm a California CPA, and so sometimes there are peculiarities from state to state, and so you should be aware of that too, that you want to get an attorney for your particular state. Okay, let's get started. Janice, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure. What is life care planning, and how is this concept developed?
Okay. Well, life care planning, which is an unusual term, you probably have never even heard of it before, is actually a philosophy that combines long-term care planning, which many people hear about, with elder care services. That we try to create a holistic environment to address not just the legal and potentially financial issues having to do with long-term care planning, but also the elder care sides of it to marry the whole thing together and complete a complete picture for our clients. The concept was developed by an attorney in Tennessee by the name of Tim Takis many years ago. Tim and others pretty much became disheartened with the concept of long-term care planning, which seemed to be focused on protecting assets for the family. Tim and others and I feel that while assets can and should be protected if it's legal to do that, the emphasis of protecting them should be to provide for mom and dad's, or mom or dad's, long-term care. Many times the assets are not enough, and so you have to supplement the assets with public benefits. So in the case where assets aren't enough, that's the focus, is trying to stretch the assets out using public benefits to protect the resources that are owned by the elder for their long-term care, again, protected with public benefits. But it doesn't have to be about protecting assets. It can be just about providing services to an elder who may have a range of concerns. So we look at the legal side of it, but we marry those legal services with elder care services.
Okay. So now, as I understand it, this fellow Tim Takis founded an association?
Yes. Well, he and others, after a number of years, they formed an association called the Life Care Planning Law Firm Association. So individuals in wherever you are could go online and look for that website, that the organization and learn more about it through the website and look for practitioners who are a member of it. To be a member of the association, you have to have on your staff an elder care coordinator who's not an attorney. It's usually a social worker or someone who's similarly licensed and who is capable of giving geriatric care management, care coordination services to the client.
Okay. How is life care planning different from conventional estate or long-term care planning?
That's a good question. As I said, life care planning is going to be combining the services, the legal services with elder care services. Estate planning, in its essence, is planning for death. What's going to happen to my assets when I die? Long-term care planning is looking at how are my financial and legal arrangements going to be affected by long-term care. And if I don't die, well, we're all going to die, but if I don't die right away and I need long-term care for a long time, it could become potentially expensive, or there may be a myriad of other issues involved. And so life care planning is the long-term care planning focused generally, but it's also married with all these elder care coordination services to help make a holistic kind of service to our clients.
Right. And so I'm just thinking about, some of the demographics that are happening. Of course, I guess it was last year that they said the first of the baby boomers were age 65. And so we're getting a much heavier concentration. And the other thing, though, is just that life expectancy in general has been lengthening. So, like back when Social Security was initiated, I think the expectation was maybe 2-3 years people would get Social Security. Now people are living 90, 100, and they're saying that it's going to go beyond that. So this whole idea of life care planning becomes more important. And
sort of an interesting side bit to that. People come in and sometimes they want a senior discount. And I say, well, are you 104 yet? Because that becomes my real senior now. The 90-year-olds are very, very common.
And senior discount. The whole clientele is seniors. I'd have to give a discount to everybody. What am I going to do? Okay. Well, what are some of the legal concerns in this area of life care planning?
Well, of course, we're looking at eligibility for public benefits if there's a need to stretch out the money. So we're looking at whether or not they're going to be eligible for Medi-Cal, if they're eligible for VA benefits of any sort. We're going to be looking at the protecting of the assets. How do we transfer the assets? How do we restructure them so that the individual will be able to qualify for those kinds of benefits? Oftentimes we use irrevocable trusts. There's lots of different names being applied to these trusts, but you can call it a Medi-Cal or a VA asset protection trust. It's very different from the domestic asset protection trusts that you might be talking to some of your guests about in asset protection when you talk about creditors and taxes and those kind of things. This is not trying to avoid taxes. It is not trying to protect from any creditor other than Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal actually is a unique kind of creditor. They're not a creditor until someone dies. And that's when they become technically a creditor. So you can do a lot of things in planning to avoid a Medi-Cal recovery that you couldn't do if someone was just indebted to regular creditors because of the fraud on creditor rules. So we use a lot of different trusts. We certainly, in pre-planning for this kind of things, we use durable powers of attorney. Unfortunately, most of my colleagues out there, the powers of attorney they're doing, and even their trusts that they're creating, are designed so that they're protecting the individual's estate plan for when they die. They're not expecting that they're going to need to change that estate plan before they die. The regular revocable living trust out there is not going to protect assets at all for VA or Medi-Cal purposes. So we generally have to take people out of those trusts. If the client isn't ready to do that kind of thing, I will create a revocable trust, but I have powers embedded in it that allow someone using their power of attorney to withdraw the assets from the trust, maybe completely revoke that trust if we get to the point where we need public benefits. Similarly, we need a power of attorney that authorizes that. So we have to have powers in the trust. We have to have powers in the power of attorney. In the power of attorney, we also need a very comprehensive gifting provision, because a lot of what we do involves gifting, either outright gifting to good children or outright gifting to a trust of one sort or another.
So, okay. So two things then. One is that you've got to have a lot of flexibility in that trust. I remember what I was going to talk about now. So it seems to me that a trust protector might play an important role for a trust like this. So in other words, somebody that you have that may be not the trustee usually, but steps in and has certain powers for making modifications and so forth.
Sometimes we do that. In a revocable trust situation, we usually don't have a trust protector, because the person that is named as their agent or attorney in fact under a power of attorney can exercise those powers to change the trust, to pull the assets out and make gifts. We have to be careful about who is named as the person under the attorney in fact under the power of attorney, because of self-dealing kind of concerns. So we have to figure that out. We use trust protectors in the irrevocable trusts. So once I transfer an asset out of mom and dad's name, out of their living trust, and into an irrevocable trust, oftentimes we have a trust protector in that trust. The trust that we create to hold the assets rarely is set up for the benefit of the elder. And of course we want to be able to get the money out to use it for the elder, because that was the whole point of our life care planning. So we use a trust protector in order to distribute assets out to during the lifetime of the elder to probably one of the children who is helping mom and dad the most. So it's not to give money for the purposes of helping mom, but to give money to, say, compensate that child for all of the help that they've been giving to mom and dad. It's pretty complicated, and it takes a lot of time for me to explain to families how these documents work. We also oftentimes create special needs trusts. And so when your mom might be saying, Michael, we can give this money to Michael directly because he's a very, I really believe that he'll take care of me. And then you, Michael, because you might die before mom does, I make sure that you understand that the moral thing for you to do is put that money into a special needs trust to provide for your mom's care in case something does happen to you, either death or incapacity, and you aren't able to take care of mom directly. So all of those kind of things are involved. Okay.
How does planning for public benefits play a role in all of this?
Well, as I said, that is, it's a big part of it for most people, because long-term care in a skilled nursing facility in our county is anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 on average per month.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. and most people just don't have it, and they see money flying out the door. And they may have some income, but they're really going through their savings fast. Sometimes they don't have liquidity. They don't have they have a home and maybe some other assets, but they just don't have the liquidity to do that. And rarely do our kids have the ability to provide that kind of extra money for mom and dad on a monthly basis. And the elders, as we said before, are living longer. So how long is this going to be needed? And care at home, Michael, is way more expensive. Now, you and I know people hire domestics under the table and pay them under the table, which is illegal. But
don't run for office.
you know, but if they do it legitimately and they go through an agency, the cost of home care can be quite a lot more than care in a skilled nursing facility. So we look at what care is needed, what kind of money is needed, what kind of benefits we can get that the elder is going to be eligible for. Unfortunately, Medi-Cal is pretty much only going to help with skilled nursing facility level of care. And that means the nursing home that most people think about. Our generation, the baby boomer generation, and the generation actually ahead of us, are electing not to go to skilled nursing homes, and they want to go into assisted living facilities. There's really no Medi-Cal help for those. So we are looking at VA benefits sometimes to help provide the funding for the assisted living facilities, Michael. So that is what we're looking at as far as public benefits. Mostly it's VA benefits and mostly it's Medi-Cal, but we've got to look at what we're trying to fund. There are some additional programs called Medi-Cal waiver programs that might be available in very specific circumstances. And so we actually are trained as a life care planner to know all of those kinds of things, so we can help clients pull in whatever is out there to help them.
A lot of stuff to know, isn't there?
It's an amazing amount.
Jeez. Okay, well, there's another piece of this puzzle that you call the concierge service.
Right.
And maybe you can explain what that's about.
I love clients who can come to me for concierge service. This is generally when a client is not, does not have restricted funds. I mean, we may have some concern about money, but what we're looking at is how to use what money they have for their care. Oftentimes, people don't want to ever go to a nursing home, are going to avoid it, and they've done a good job of maybe having some long-term care insurance. Sometimes the long-term care insurance won't kick in. Sometimes we have liquidity. We have a lot of money in a home in Monte Sereno, but you are always afraid that whatever cash you have is not going to last.
Right.
You know, the old saying, "I would like to die on the same day I've run out of money." You know, the last nickel on the last day.
What are you doing? Spending my kids' inheritance, and then hopefully it will hold out until I'm.
You know, surprisingly, most kids out there are not saying, "Protect it from me, Mom." They're saying, "Just make sure, Mom, you don't outlive your money," because they're frightened to death of having to pay for their mom.
Right.
Not always. I mean, it is a big commitment. So the concierge service would be an advisor to an elder who isn't looking at having to get public benefits right now, and helping them figure out what kind of things they want to do. Sometimes it's just sort of, you've heard of the term counselor at law, not just attorney at law.
Right.
It's a legal counselor. It's helping you sit down and think through all of your issues. Do you want to move to Indiana and back to your live with your sister? Do you want to move to an assisted living facility? What is that going to look like as far as assets? You know, how will you sell your house? who's going to help with all of this? Maybe you have 2 or 3 kids, maybe you have no children, at least none locally.
Right.
And your children might be off in the on the East Coast, and very busy professionals there. They would like to have somebody here who's helping mom think through all these things. So a concierge, sort of, I like to think of it as the old Italian consigliere, kind of thing. You just called in for whatever it is that needs to go on. It's not, some pieces of it might be estate planning, some of it might be long-term care planning. It's just sort of whatever happens.
But I guess what you're saying, I mean, it could even be, well, like you said, I mean, what are some of the choices out there for a nursing home or for a care center or whatever, a residential of some type?
A lot of that is done by my care coordinator through our elder care services, part of a life care plan, if they've taken on that piece of it. It's less expensive to have my care coordinator take them around to show them at various facilities, or to get a placement agency in place that's going to take them around. But we know about all of those resources out there that are available to help seniors. Oftentimes, I've had widows, usually it's a widow, want to come to me and they just want to talk to me about how to do things. They're worried that they are making bad decisions.
Yes.
And they trust me to help them understand all their options and to reasonably weigh all those options and figure out what they should do. I had one lady recently that we went through all of the options having to do with getting a reverse mortgage. Okay. And getting a valuation on her home so that she knows approximately what it's worth if she decided to move into a continuing care facility and sell it. So those are the kinds of things that we can bring all of that together, all of those resources and all of the kinds of issues that elders, especially when they don't have family nearby that can take the ball and help them figure all these things out. Not that the kids know these things. They all usually don't, but they rely on the child. And in the concierge service, they're relying on me to help them figure these things out.
Okay. Well, you've got this elder care coordinator that evidently plays kind of a key role in this whole process. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what the role of that elder care coordinator is.
Well, there's a number of roles. First off, they're going to be, the care coordinator is a trained person in the community in the life care planning organization or thoughts. It will be someone who is a social worker or similar person. Maybe they have an RN behind their name as well. They may be a certified geriatric care manager. But all of those are just credentials that may come in to be helpful in what we're doing. The person needs to know resources in the community, all kinds of resources that are out there to help seniors, in whether they are for fee or they are somewhat government benefit kind of resources. So I have to know those things. They have to know how to deal with people on a good basis. The care coordinator I happen to have is a marriage and family therapist, licensed. So she's very good at dealing with people. They have to know care management kinds of skills, and she usually has to understand the whole healthcare system, from hospitalizations to home care and everything in between, the assisted living, the board and cares, the skilled nursing homes. You can sort of break down what a care coordinator does into probably 4 different areas. The basic consultations with clients. Maybe you come in and you just want to consult with the care coordinator on the elder care services to understand what your options are for your mom, and then you're going to go and help mom make all those decisions and so forth. So care education or consultation is sort of a basic. Then another major area on the other side of it is when you get into crisis. Mom's in a hospital or nursing home, they're threatening discharge too soon, in your opinion, or you don't, they're saying, here, you picked one of these 3 nursing homes, and you're saying, I don't know where mom should go, and what are the issues, and the discharge workers are trying to be helpful, but they oftentimes can't give you a whole lot more. So our crisis intervention can come in and help you deal with the kind of crisis. We have one client that the daughter is in Arizona, and so when mom fell and needed to go to the hospital, our care coordinator was the one who met the ambulance at the hospital. Yeah. So that's kind of care coordination or care crisis. Then there's care management, which is keeping tabs on your mom, just making sure that somebody's looking in on her because, again, you're too busy to do it, you're too far away, or you don't exist. And so we're helping keep that up. And then there's the core, what we call care coordination. Involves a thorough assessment of your mom's needs, a written care plan, providing resources, suggestions about what the care plan and resources to get that done, follow-ups. It involves talking to the doctors when the doctor is recommending things and is, so it's that whole kind of coordination.
Okay. Janice, we're all out of time. So anyway, I think folks, you can appreciate this is a big area that she's taken on here with this team and her firm and other members of this association. I think you can have an appreciation for the value that they can bring to seniors. And we hope that, that we've given you something to give you something to think about, maybe follow up. And we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.